My partner has condoms we don't use, and they're disappearing, making me suspect he's cheating. My partner and I have been together for 6 years, and we have 2 young children, both boys. Our relationship has had its ups and downs, especially since having kids. The lockdowns were particularly challenging with new babies and toddlers around. We were friends for many years before we got together, so we know each other well. From the beginning, my partner has always been a bit distant, not one for showing much affection. However, since I was pregnant with our youngest, things have gotten worse. Our relationship feels more like a situationship now. He says he loves me, but his actions don't show it. Our sex life is almost non-existent, only happening when he initiates it, which is maybe every few months. He's never had a high sex drive, so I didn't think much of it. I've tried to initiate intimacy, but I've been rejected multiple times. Despite this, we still get along like best friends, which makes the situation even harder. I've sacrificed a lot for him and our family, and I feel like I'm at a breaking point. Around January, my partner was going out for a meal with some friends. As he pulled out his phone, a condom fell out of his pocket. We don't use condoms, so this was a shock. He laughed it off, saying he had put it there for us to use, but we hadn't used it. I tried not to dwell on it too much, thinking it was from an old box he had before our eldest was born, around 2019 or 2020. That evening, he sent me his live location to show he was where he said he'd be. But my curiosity got the best of me, and I snooped through his bedside drawer. I found 11 red packaged condoms, clearly from the same box. Given the expiration date of 2028, they couldn't have been older than last year. Since then, I've been keeping an eye on the drawer. The number of condoms keeps changing, they're going down. There are also 3 condoms in different colored packaging from different packs, manufactured around 2021. At least for red condoms have disappeared since January, and 3 more have gone missing in the past month. Recently, he's been doing a lot of overtime at work, but nothing else in his routine has changed. 1 condom went missing this past weekend, but I couldn't see when he had the opportunity to use it since we were mostly together, except when he took the kids out. I'm ashamed to admit this, but I've gone through his bag, his pockets, and even our bins, trying to find any evidence, but there's nothing. I don't want to believe he's cheating, especially when he claims to be working overtime, but I can't find any other explanation for the disappearing condoms. I feel completely lost and alone in this situation. I don't have anyone I can talk to about this, so I'm turning to you for advice. What would you think if you were in my shoes? I don't know how to address this with him. Should I confront him about the condoms? Should I straight up ask him if he's cheating? Leaving isn't a straightforward option for me. He owns our house, and I have nowhere else to go with our children. The thought of disrupting their lives is heartbreaking. But I also can't keep living with this uncertainty and distrust. So, what should I do? Should I confront him about the disappearing condoms? How do I even start that conversation? Should I demand to know who he's been sleeping with? Or do I stay silent for the sake of our children and try to make the best of our situation? I'm really at a loss here and could use any advice or perspectives you can offer. Thank you for taking the time to read my story and for any help you can provide. I caught my fiancé sexting a mutual friend, and after confronting him, we chose to work through it with therapy, ultimately rebuilding our relationship. I was in a long-term relationship with my fiancé. We had been together for almost a decade, and life had settled into a comfortable rhythm. We owned a house together and shared the responsibilities of taking care of our pet. For the most part, I was happy, or at least I thought I was. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day, I fell asleep on the couch. It was one of those deep sleeps that only come after sheer exhaustion. In the middle of the night, I woke up and decided to move to the bedroom for the remainder of my rest. On my way, I noticed that my fiance's phone was unplugged, so I reached to plug it in for him. As I picked up the phone, the screen lit up with the notification. Out of habit, my eyes glanced at it, and I saw a message from a mutual friend. Let's call her the friend. The message was startlingly explicit, and my heart sank as I scrolled up to see the full conversation. It was a back-and-forth exchange of sexting, filled with dirty talk that left me in shock. Unable to process what I was seeing, I threw the phone at my fiancé, who woke up confused and alarmed. I demanded an explanation, and he admitted everything. He told me that the sexting had been going on for the past 2 weeks and had happened for times. He insisted that no pictures were exchanged and that nothing physical had ever happened. He confessed that he felt guilty and was relieved that I now knew because the guilt had been eating him up inside. He explained that he had been feeling miserable lately and that our sex life had dwindled to almost nothing, something he partly blamed on both of us. The friend, he said, made him feel attractive and desired, which was something he desperately needed at that moment. In the days that followed, I found myself in a whirlwind of emotions. On one hand, I was devastated by the betrayal. On the other, I couldn't ignore the years we had spent together and the life we had built. My fiancé was remorseful. He promised to spend the rest of his life making it up to me if I would give him the chance. He admitted that he had been taking me for granted and swore that he would change. The first thing I did was confront the friend. I texted her, letting her know that I had discovered the affair. She responded with an apology, admitting that there was no excuse for her actions. She said she was sorry for disrespecting me and crossing a boundary. I told her that while I didn't hate her, we could no longer be friends. My fiancé agreed to delete her number from his phone. Despite his assurances, I was left grappling with my trust issues. I couldn't shake the image of those texts from my mind. I knew that if I couldn't rebuild the trust, I would have to leave. But part of me wanted to fight for our relationship to see if we could work through this. We decided that couples therapy was a necessary step. We enrolled in sessions, hoping that a professional could help us navigate this turbulent period. In therapy, we discussed our feelings openly. My fiancé reiterated his remorse and explained that he had never intended to hurt me. He said he had been selfish and acknowledged the damage he had caused. Couples therapy was challenging but enlightening. We uncovered underlying issues that had been festering for years. Both of us had neglected our relationship in various ways, letting the passion fade and the routine take over. Our therapist helped us understand that while the sexting was a symptom, there were deeper problems that needed addressing. During one session, my fiancé broke down. He talked about his insecurities and how the friend had played into them. He admitted that he had been feeling old and unattractive, and the friend's attention gave him a temporary boost in self-esteem. I couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy, even though I was still hurt. I shared my own feelings of neglect. I had felt unappreciated and taken for granted. The routine had made me complacent, and I hadn't realized how much our relationship needed a spark until it was almost too late. Our therapist guided us in discussing ways to rekindle our connection, to communicate better, and to be more attentive to each other's needs. Slowly, I began to see changes. My fiancé was more present and attentive. He made an effort to show me that he cared, not just through words but through actions. He planned date nights, helped more around the house, and made a conscious effort to be emotionally available. Rebuilding trust was the hardest part. Every time my fiancé's phone buzzed, I felt a surge of anxiety. He understood my fears and was patient, reassuring me that he had nothing to hide. He even offered to let me go through his phone whenever I wanted, though I declined. I didn't want to become paranoid or controlling. Our therapist suggested trust-building exercises, which we both participated in earnestly. We worked on rebuilding the intimacy that had been lost, both emotionally and physically. It was a slow process, filled with setbacks and moments of doubt, but we kept pushing forward. One day, my fiancé sat me down and showed me a letter he had written. In it, he detailed his regret, his love for me, and his commitment to our future. He acknowledged his mistakes and promised to never take our relationship for granted again. Reading his words brought tears to my eyes. It was a turning point for us, a moment of genuine vulnerability and honesty. Months passed, and the wounds began to heal. The pain of betrayal was still there, but it had dulled. I realized that holding on to anger would only hurt me more. Forgiveness wasn't easy, but it was necessary for my own peace of mind. We continued our therapy sessions and made a conscious effort to keep the lines of communication open. We learned to express our needs and feelings without fear of judgment. Our relationship wasn't perfect, but it was stronger than it had been in years. Looking back, I saw that the sexting scandal, while painful, had forced us to confront issues we had been ignoring. It made us realize that a relationship requires constant effort and attention. We had become complacent, and this wake-up call reminded us of what we stood to lose. My fiancé and I decided to renew our commitment to each other. We planned a small ceremony to reaffirm our vows, surrounded by close family and friends. It was a symbol of our new beginning, a promise to cherish and respect each other. In the end, I chose to stay, not because I was weak or afraid to be alone, but because I believed in our ability to change and grow together. The journey was difficult, but it taught me the value of forgiveness, the importance of communication, and the strength of love. Our story wasn't perfect, but it was ours. And as we moved forward, we did so with a renewed sense of purpose and a deeper understanding of each other. The road ahead was uncertain, but we were ready to face it together, one step at a time. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more relationship stories.